Oh, bisa lanjutkan ternyata. Nggak usah ya, mending aku ulang dari awal ya. Siapa tahu ada yang belum nonton. This is game number 1. No, this is game number 5 in the session. This is Cage of Roses. I received the key to play this one from the publisher themselves. 2.5 Studio. Yeah, 2.5 Studios. So this is another sponsor game. If you guys interested, feel free to type !G or game in the chat room. However, I have to actually warn everyone who is currently watching or probably just listening or lurking. This is a game, a visual novel game, and it's heavily have an implying girls love theme because the two main character is supposed to be female and female, so it's probably not going to be suitable for everyone else. Not everyone, not suitable for everyone. Yeah, something like that. That's all. Enjoy the stream, enjoy the podcast. I'm probably going to play until 3ish AM ya. Iya, ini game ke-4, ke-5. Judulnya Cage of Roses. Aku dapatnya dari publishernya sendiri, 2.5 Studio. Dulu sudah pernah main demo, jadi aku tahu. Cuma ini aku perlu ingetin lagi ke yang lagi nonton atau lagi mendengarkan. Ini gamenya berbasis, bukan berbasis sih. Temanya memang cerita tentang dua orang perempuan ya. Jadi memang girls love temanya. Gak ada adegan aneh-aneh karena aku belum install yang patch 18 plusnya. Tapi aku cuma main sampai jam 3an kayaknya, jadi gak lama-lama banget seharusnya. Oke, enjoy the stream, enjoy the podcast. Karena kopiku ini ada serbuknya. Kelihatan nggak ya? Nih. Tuh. Ada serbuknya. Dan aku biasanya kalau bikin kopi gitu aku dinginin biar dia kayak mengendap gitu loh. Jadi nggak keminum. Cuma kalau misalnya tidak dilihat dan diamati dengan baik, serbuknya kemakan. Jadi nggak enak. See, this is why I actually like the demo back then. The writing is actually pretty good, really. So it's actually enjoyable, like you are actually reading a novel. I mean, the theme is visual novel, so it is actually great in writing. What would happen when Maker was not so optimistic to hope for an if they caught her? What would they do to Hanny? They thought was almost more than Maker could bear. It had been bad enough to lose her parents, but to lose Hanny too? Why? She had done nothing wrong. Unlike Maker, Hanny was no lady, she was just a maid. She was only being targeted because of her relationships to Maker and her family. Had Hanny been traveling alone, she would have passed through the forest quite unscarred. It wasn't as though Hanny had any valuables upon her person that were worth the effort of pilfering. Her family's mausoleum was a terrifying place of sombre stone angel and spider webs. It was quiet, being situated among tall trees, but its quietude was not at all relaxing. Its quiet was the deep, fathomless silence of death. Maker did not want to die. She knew not how she would continue to live on with both her parents slaughtered before her very eyes, but she did not want to succumb as they had in this forest full of fog. She wanted to go on living, for her sake and for Hanny's, though not necessarily for Walter's. Like the guttering flame of a candle, the last of her energy had been expanded. Maker's foot caught in a tangled tree root which jutted from the ground like a bear trap, and she fell. Her hand, which was slick with sweat, slipped free from Hanny's. She reached out, searching for her loyal mates with a hope but little avail. Maker! Oh, we're done with the intro. Okay. Maker was greeted upon waking by a dull, crushing pain that gripped her skull like a vice. A brackish taste akin to pond water filled her mouth, and with one hand clasped to her head, she coughed. Maker's body shuddered and her lungs burned. It took a minute before her coughing fit subsided, but once it did, Maker began to glance uneasily around her surroundings. She hoped that her immediate surroundings might shed some light upon her predicament, but her hopes were in vain. Maker had no idea where she was. The floor upon which she was sitting, but why was she sitting on the floor, of all things, was made of stone, which felt hard and cold and uncompromising. The walls too were made of stone, as was the ceiling, which felt very far away. A wooden cot was pushed up close against one of the walls, but it was so steep in shadows Maker could scarcely make it out. There was a chamber pot lying by the cot which she did not care to examine too closely, but its rim and sides were stained with cake-on filth. A truly unpleasant odor exuded from the chamber pot which made Maker's eyes sting. It was fortunate that she had no immediate desire to relieve herself, for she had no wish to use this commode. A quick examination of the room, though really it was more like a cell, showed Maker that save for the cot and the chamber pot it was utterly desolate. There was no other furniture to be seen, no shelves, nor cupboards, nor even a proper bed. There was no mirror either, so Maker could not see herself, but perhaps this was a blessing in disguise. Maker thought that she would be at her best given she was in so much pain and she was so very exhausted. She was so cold she could feel goosebumps rippling across her flesh and her teeth were chattering badly. Maker wounds her arm. wound her arms about her middle and shivered sadly. It was not only the chamber pot that stunk, the very air itself was rank, heavy with the stench of unwashed bodies and general decay. This room, no, she was sure that this was a cell, reek of death. How had she come to such a place? What had happened to her? Meika could remember sitting alongside her mother and her father in their carriage as it bore them through the forest, and then, there at this most pivotal of moments, her memories failed her. Meika could recall nothing else. Had her parents been there, they would have given her instructions. They always seemed to know what Meika ought to be doing at any given time, but they were not there, and neither was Henny. Meika was all alone. Henny had been with her, Meika was certain before. If only she was made of stone, then perhaps her head would not hurt so much. It really did feel that her skull might explode, not from the pain, though the pain still remained, but from raw, unbridled fear. To be honest, I love using this thing. What is this? N-hyphen? N-hyphen? M-hyphen? I love using this kind of thing. It explains a lot of thoughts. And I usually like using this kind of symbol. So when I wanted to explain things, I don't have to use dot and comma. How to say that thing, yeah, in English? But yeah, something like that. Meika had often dreamed of stealing away from her parents' home to embark upon a brand new life unfettered by expectations, but she had never wished for this. Tears began to trickle down Meika's cheeks in crystalline droplets. They scored tracks in the dirt which caked her cheeks and dropped one by one to the floor. Her head bowed, fingers played against the stone, Meika sobbed, and she sobbed until a soft voice spoke from amongst the teeming shadows. Meika could not see the speaker. She could scarcely see it all given the darkness and now her own tears, but she recognized its familiar cadences. The voice belonged to Henny. Meika's dear friend was here too, in this stone cell which smelled of death, and though Meika feared for Henny, she could feel relief bubbling up inside her. She was not alone after all. Henny? Meika crawled forth on her hands and knees, being too exhausted to stand and stare into the shadows. Henny, is that you? Meika. A shaft of moonlight spilled through the singular barred window, hewn high into the wall of their cell, and finally Meika was afforded a view of her mate. Though christened Henriette, Meika had always called her beloved mate Henny. Okay, Kristen. It seemed a more appropriate name for so cheery a woman, for Henny, come rain or shine, was rarely seen without a smile. Henny was not smiling now, however. She was sitting upon the wooden cot which Meika had first spied, her head bent. Okay. Henny's face looked woefully weary, and it had lost much of its usual pinkness, her apron once white now stained and sullied with dirt. Henny's shoes had been black and sensible, but now they were mere in filth, and her socks were rucked up about her ankles. Henny's hands, which she held at her front, were trembling like those a woman tries her age. Can you see? No? Meika's own hair meanwhile was very long and curly, and though she had worn it in a chignon, she could now feel it straggling loosely with her shoulders. The back of her neck prickled either from the cold or from a dislodged hairpin or two. Perhaps that was why Henny stared at Meika so. Once she had regained her own sense of equilibrium, as though she had seen a ghost. My god, Meika! Meika was no stranger to shame. She felt it frequently, in fact, when she was with her mother, but it rarely raised its ugly head in Henny's presence. Since Meika's girlhood, Henny had been her one staunch, steadfast companion. She was the only person Meika knew who took Meika for who she was, rather than wishing, often aloud to her face, that she could be more appreciative, more amenable, more effusive, more like a lady, and less like herself. Wow. What a choice of word, yeah? Appreciative, amenable, effusive, like a lady. Henny didn't want Meika to be more, she only wanted Meika to be Meika. Did that mean then that Maker did not look like Maker in that moment, but who else did she resemble if not herself? What had happened to her? Are you alright, Maker? Oh, look at your poor face. Hanny rose from the wooden cot which creaked and crouched before her friend. Reaching out, still shaking, she cupped Maker's cheeks in her fingers and said, "You're bleeding. You've a nasty cut beneath your right eye and your cheek." Hanny sucked in a breath, her expression grim. "It's all banged up. You're positively black and blue." That. What a word, yeah? Hanny, who had procured a handkerchief from her skirt pocket, it fortunately wasn't dirty, paused in her dabbing at Maker's face to look at her with bemusement. "Why are you apologizing to me, you daft goose? You've done nothing to feel sorry for." I don't know. I'm just sorry for making you worry, I suppose." Okay. "My thoughts might be in a state of disarray for the present, but I would never forget you. You are much more than my mate, Hanny. You are my friend too, my dearest friend. And I could very well say the same about you. That's why it hurts seeing you in such a frightful state. Do I look so very bad?" Okay. "You've certainly looked better. Your face is as banged up as a wineful apple." "You're still alive and so am I, and we are together. That ought to count for something, although..." Handy finished with wiping the worst of the congealed blood and muck from Maker's cheek, then drew back her soiled kerchief, gripped tight in her hand. Her expression newly dour, she said after a moment's pause, "I am afraid that your parents might not have been so fortunate." Maker's heart leaped in her chest at this sombre announcement. "What happened to them, Hanny? Do you know what's going on?" "You don't?" "We were traveling to Augsburg to visit my fiancé, but as for how we came here..." Oh, she didn't remember. Her mind remained stubbornly blank, as featureless as a snowy field, all floral blanketed in untrammeled wet whiteness. "I'm afraid I cannot remember." Huh? Wasn't she able to remember what's going on, on the carriage and such? Anyhow. Henny grit her teeth together for a few moments, her eyes dark. She seemed to be weighing up her words, as a baker might measure out flour and sugar before speaking. "That's not such a surprise, I suppose. You hit your head pretty hard back there. It might be for the best that you can't remember all the gory details. I wish I could forget what happened to myself," but Henny's voice trailed away as awkwardly she gripped her kerchief. She felt so very unworldly. She might as well have been a little girl again, enthused, after she had successfully stolen the key to her family's mausoleum. Maker had not known, as she stood in the chill entrance of the mausoleum, that she was about to lower herself into a subterranean world of death and decay, though part of her had wondered. "Henny? What happened? Tell me please, I want to know." "That does make things a mite complicated though. I don't want to be the bearer of the bad news. Just promise you won't take against me for what I'm about to tell you. I've gone through a lot tonight already, and that would be the straw to break the camel's back." Okay. How much do you want to know? Ooh, there's an animation now! Okay. The beam of light which had penetrated their draped cell had long since been extinguished, the moon obscured beneath the rolling fog. To be honest, back then when I had to play the demo, I don't remember there is this kind of scene though, hence why I was surprised. I don't remember there is an animation about this thing. There's only like this text which telling it's currently full moon in the outside, something like that. I'm sorry to tell you this, Make, but during our travels, the carriage, it was attacked by bandits. They came creeping out from the fog like, I don't know, monster from a children's story, maybe, but much scarier. They waylaid the carriage, then stormed it. They drew out their daggers and threatened your father, and when he refused to comply, well, they stabbed him. Evidently, she had not been half so prepared to hear the words as she had imagined. I'm sorry, but it's as you're probably suspecting. He died. His wound was a deep one and he died. Dead as a doornail, I'm afraid. Okay. In one brief night, both of Meika's parents had been slaughtered. Now she was an orphan. Was? Why was? I took your hand while they were busy with your mother, and when we ran away, we fled through the woods, but the bandits took chase pretty damn darn quick. It was very dark and the fog was thick and I could hardly see what was happening. At one point you tripped and you fell, that's how you got that nasty cut on your poor forehead, and I was dragged down with you. We lay there on the ground in the dirt while the bandits tramped about looking for us. I figured we were both a couple of goners. I'd started to say my prayers to the Lord Almighty, but then we survived. Otherwise, they would not have been sitting in this ghastly cell speaking to one another. Either the bandits had spared them, which seemed unlikely, or somebody had come to their defense. Who would have been wandering your woods so very late at night, however? Meika could hardly credit it. Their escape must have been the stuff that fantasies were made of. Do you know how we escaped, Henny? I know what my eyes saw, but if my eyes can be trusted or not, well, that's another matter altogether. I think I might have bumped my head myself. It was all so peculiar. At the time it seemed like a miracle, but looking back on it, that ain't the right word. Miracle suggests God and all his angels, but there was naught holy about this. It was a right proper mess, really, a total bloodbath. Blood? It's hard for me to explain, but all is I know is one moment we were sprawled upon the dirt, you unconscious, I half out of my mind with fright as the bandits approached, and the next they were gone. The fog parted you see, and then this figure, this woman, she appeared so quick it was like she'd sprung up from the earth. She wasn't very tall, I don't think she was at least, and she was very skinny, but the way she looked, the way she moved, there was something unnatural about her. I didn't get a very good look at what happened next, but I saw her go after those bandits. I think there were at least 4 of them, but that woman soon took care of them. There was so much blood and a lot of mud, it stunk to high heaven, it did, brought tears to my eyes. That woman though, the woman in white, she didn't seem fussed at all. She stood there when she had vanished beneath the moon like nothing had happened, and then... I don't remember anything about that. I think I must have fainted. Okay. Mademoiselle Blanchard? Are you sure it was a woman who fended off those bandits? Perhaps it was some sort of animal insect and you failed to perceive it in the fog. That could be it. Like I said, my mind's a mess. I feel like I've lost a good 10 years of my life, although that's better than having it cut short altogether. Okay. Where do you suppose we are and how do you suppose we got here? That's a good question. I've been wondering that myself. It's not the nicest of digs, is it? Not particularly, no. It's awfully drab and it's damp too. I'm freezing. You poor thing, you. Hanny shifted closer to Maker and drew her arms about her, holding her close. She didn't glance about. Both maid and mistress squinted into the shadows as though they might unearth some secret way of escaping, a trapdoor perhaps, or a hidden passageway. But to Maker's disappointment, she found the cell quite unchanged. It was every bit of as sparse as she recalled. The shadows did little to mask this fog, and still it stank. Goodness me, it's not much to look at, is it? We might as well be in a prison cell. It is actually a prison cell. I think that might be what this is. Hanny drew back from Meiku, her legs crossed beneath her upon the stone floor, and frowned. It was nice of our mysterious benefactor or benefactress to rescue us, though they cannot be all that kind if they are going to let us suffer in here. You'd think they could at least have put us up in a nicer room. I'm not expecting first-class accommodation, but you deserve better than this, Maker. This place isn't fit for rats, let alone people. Wow. It's better than being dead at least, even if these lodgings are a mite uncomfortable. Only a mite? What do they mean by a mite comfortable? Like a little? Or just kinda not comfortable? What does mite mean? Uncomfortable mean extremely uncomfortable. Huh? Very small amount. Oh, okay. So it's actually not that comfortable then, right? Okay, let's continue. Megan drew her arms about her legs, her knees beneath her chin, and said, "When I woke up, I was lying on the floor." On the floor? I suppose it makes sense there being only one bed, but oh, that's too much. I can't believe that they're flying you about like a sack of spooks. Okay. I don't say things I don't mean, you know. Now let's see, maybe things aren't as dire as they look. There could be a way to escape yet. Henny rose to her feet, though unsteadily, and did a circuit of the cell. The shadows made it seem larger than it was, for they obscured the walls, but it did not take Henny many steps to canvass the full length of the dingy room. She pressed her fingertips to the walls, then her ear, as though the stonework might whisper their weaknesses to her. But the walls, of course, remained mute. Henny then took the bars between her fingers and squeezed experimentally, but they refused to yield. Oh, come on. The tip of her shoe collided with them, losing clods of dirt from her soles, but the bars refused to budge. They were quite impenetrable. Sighing, Henny chanked tack. She moved from the door to glance up at the window, but this was seemingly bare, too high up to reach and much too small to squeeze through. It almost seemed like a miracle that such a small window allowed any moonlight at all to spread into the cell when the clouds and the fog shifted. Okay. There is a scream from a pretty far away. With no obvious way of escape and very little to do, Maker and Hanny had no choice but to idle their time away. They sat upon the floor together with their legs folded primly like two little girls conducting a make-believe tea party. Hanny had at first balked at the thought of her mistress sitting on a stool like a plebeian. Okay. The two women did not, however, abandon themselves to inertia. Hanny knew they had to do something to take their minds off their ghastly predicament. Okay. Alongside the kerchief she had used a pack of cards. The cards were worn. Okay. For want of a better way to use their time, Hanny proposed to Maker a game of Joker, a game which Maker agreed to. Okay. The two women played several rounds of Joker, examining their decks and dispensing of cards. The game did not require a great degree of tactical thinking, but it helped alleviate some of Maker's worry. Halo Angke, thank you for joining the giveaway. Pagi. It could not alas alleviate the cold, but Maker had been shivering for so long she had almost grown accustomed to it. She had been in a dank, miserable cell for so long she could scarcely remember how it even felt to be warm. Had her journey to Augsburg continued unimpeded, she would now be sitting by the fire in Walter Gerhardt's living room, or else stuck up in one of his many guest bedrooms with a warming pan at her feet. Both Augsburg and Walter Gerhardt seemed very far away from the Maker now, though being confined thus in a prison cell. How long had she been sitting with Hanny on the floor, shivering? Maker did not know, she could not tell. All Maker really knew, in her infinite ignorance, was that the night seemed hopelessly long, she hopelessly small and insignificant. There was no clock in Maker's cell, and neither she nor Hanny carried timepieces upon them. The only means Maker had of tracking the advancement of the hour was the sliver of sky she could see beyond a narrow window situated high above her head. She could recall that the sky had been dark upon her waking, and it remained so now 3 games of Joker later. The moon, which emerged from the fog at irregular intervals, shone its pallid light upon Maker's head and upon her hands of cards, lighting her Joker and his wide-wreathed grin. Maker had never much cared for the Joker in Hanny's trusty pack of cards. His expression unnerved her. Every once in a while as she played, Maker spared a few glances at the bare window above her head. Though she could not guess the hour, she knew it was late. It could have been an advanced hour of the night, or could have been, by the same token, the very, very early hours of the following morning. The calendar might have shifted already from one day to the next, but Maker was none the wiser. The sky was so dark, Maker found it hard to believe the sun would ever rise again. The darkness which abounded within her cell was so complete it seemed to have blotted out the very concept of the morning altogether. She feared she would never again see the sun's golden rays, never again hear the twittering of the starlings in the trees which announced a brand new day. When did the birds begin to chirp beyond her bedroom window anyway? Huh? Maker could not recall, but she thought it must have been around 6 in the morning. Okay. Maker had gone to bed at 10 every night like dutiful daughter ought, but she had often found it hard to sleep for a full unbroken 8 hours. Okay. She would arise at odd hours, at 1 or 2 or 3, her head full of thoughts, and often she found it hard to sleep again. When this occurred, Maker would rise from the bed to sit by her windowsill, her forehead in the summer pressed to the glass. It always helped cool her and her errant thoughts alongside it. How her mind raced. Okay. This is ridiculous! We ought to be at Hertz right now, safe as houses. Do you know what this feels like? Like you are reading a novel, like a really fiction novel with a really pretty good choice of word and wording, so it's actually easy to understand in a glance. Like you don't have to actually reread the sentence a few times. And the chapter 1 is actually felt pretty long. They're basically telling the story of how Henny and Meike is currently in the cell and wondering what will they do, how they are going to get out from the cell and such. So they basically have no idea on how to get out from the cell. So in the end, they just spend the time to play games and such and such and such. This will be like page. If one chapter have 10 pages, then this is probably like page 7 or 8 already. Such a really long sentences. Do you even have a log yet? But yeah, it is actually pretty long. I don't mind, but then this is actually pretty long. What did she know about Walter really, other than his age and his occupation and how fabulously, excessively wealthy he was? Meike had met Walter on only 3 past occasions, and they exchanged almost as many words. The man was a stranger to her, and Meike's desire to marry him was inversely proportional with her parents' desire to see her walking down the aisle. Meike had been reading her visit to Oxford for well over a month. Now it had been terminated, she felt a perverse sort of relief. Part of Meike had even begun to wonder whether the bandit's attack had brought with it some good alongside all the bad. But that Meike chastised herself was hopelessly cruel. Were her parents' lives truly worth that little to her? It was true enough that she may never see Walter Gerard again, but she would never see her mother nor her father again either. It was not a fair trade, not by any stretch of the imagination. How could she ever have thought of such a thing? She really must have been weak. Was that why she had found herself in such a dire situation? Perhaps this was a punishing her for being a poor daughter, and a sinner who spent too much of her time lost in daydreams, imagining things which could never and would never be. Okay. Meike Henny sat in their cell for what could have been minutes, hours, or even days, while wailing away the time. By God, there was so much time. It continued unending, incessant game of Joker. Okay. Sleepy. My coffee is not working yet properly. I just drink my coffee, so it's not really working yet. But to be honest, yesterday I drank coffee during sahur, and I actually slept at 2 p.m. yesterday. I couldn't sleep at all. Yesterday I'm awake for a pretty long time. So basically I'm awake. I wake up probably like at 7ish or 8ish p.m. and then I do something like tidy up the room and such, and I have my dinner, and then I still feel sleepy. So I make a coffee. But I haven't drank my coffee yesterday. And then I just realized I haven't drank my coffee. And yesterday at sahur, probably at 5ish a.m. I drank my coffee, and then I didn't sleep until 2 p.m. Such a really strong one. Nangis? Enggak, Bas. Ngantuk. Tapi kopiku belum bekerja. Okay, let's continue. So aku juga ngantuk. Lo mah ngantuk terus. Suruh lagi kah? Ya boleh. Sayang sekali kamu tuh nggak suka kopi, Bas. Kelar shift mau turun lagi sih. Jam berapa ke kelar shift? Jam 4 kah? Iya, 441. Weh, oke. Semangat kak, masih ada 2 jam lagi. Setengah hari lagi. Setengah hari. Kok setengah hari? Kan 2 jam. Udah dari minggu kemarin setengah hari doang kerjanya. Nggak apa-apa kah tuh? Oh, 441 setengah hari lagi. Oke. Nggak apa kah? Atau emang sengaja asal bilang aja? Wah, oke kak. Semangat kak. Aku habis ini ganti game. Habis ketemu si apa sih? Karakter yang satu lagi. Sorry. Bahkan kalau off day pun tinggal bilang aja, nggak perlu alasan aneh-aneh. Oh, oke. Emang kalau owner beda ya, Mbak ya? Bilang aja izin hari ini off. Oke. Saya paham. Emang kalau misalnya owner beda, perlakuannya bisa nggak ada yang joking. Amin aja aku ownernya. Tapi tentu tidak ya. Pasti bukan Anda ownernya. Kalau Anda owner tentu tidak akan pusing ya waktu itu mencari kerja. Semangat bah. Aku kopiku biasa sekali doang minumnya, tapi cukup kayaknya untuk sehari. Kalau ngantuk banget biasanya baru lebih dari 1, tapi ini kayaknya cukup 1. Minimal brand ambassador aja deh. Lah. Boleh. Saya juga mau. Tapi nggak usah sih. Apa yang ku dapat ya kalau misalnya aku jadi brand ambassador ya? Well, would you look what the cut dragon? The voice that cut through Maker's musing was a proud heart. He wanted syllables polished to perfection like cut glass. The voice belonged quite obviously to a woman, and given her pronunciation, she must have been well bred. Perhaps their rescuer was a lady, and then a fawn such and such like Maker from a family whose ancestral home was vast and old and great enough to have its very own dungeon. Whereas most nobility used their subterranean storage spaces for wine cellar, this family seemed to prefer taking prisoner. The thought did not fill Maker with much confidence about her mysterious rescuer. Anxiously, she glanced up to meet the source of said voice, and when she did, oh, Maker could not help but gasp in surprise. Oke. Let's go. Apa yang let's go? Aku jadi brand ambassador kah? Entahlah ya. Itu kayaknya aku perlu di status tertentu baru bisa dia brand ambassador. Tidak mungkin. Saya masih kecil juga kak. The owner of the voice, who now stood upon the opposite side of the cell door, was not at all what Maker had imagined. Justru dari kecil-kecil, mas. Pinter kali, bah. Tapi ya sih, biasanya dari yang kecil-kecil gitu, kalau misalnya semakin lama semakin besar kelihatan impact-nya. Betul, betul. Tapi kan nggak tahu ya, siapa yang tahu ya di masa depan gimana ya. Her skin was frighteningly pale like that of a corpse, and beneath her eyes Maker could see dark rings similar to those she often sported during the long nights at her bedroom window unable to sleep. Oke, real. Begitulah ya. Kan nggak ada yang tahu ya di masa depan gimana ya. The woman, or was she a girl, had hair so fair it was almost white, which almost seemed to glow in the moon's light. Her hair was not worn in chignon, but instead was loose. It tumbled about her shoulders and waist, all this arrayed in a manner which would have made Maker's mother swoon from the sheer impropriety of it all. Hah, turu Bas, ntar gak sempat tidur lagi. Dia tidur mulu dari tadi dah. Aku baru kepikiran tadi si dia channelnya ya. Atau untuk VIP aku kasih kode ya, diskon kalau mau request game via Coffee. Aku catat lah idenya. Berapa emang? Ya sekarang $15. Aku nggak ngasih apa sih? Nggak ngasih apa-apa ke VIP. Cuma aku sengaja pakai Coffee buat cover game secara apa sih? Request game udah ada list apa aja mas? Tadi ada beberapa Bas. Kayaknya aku simpan di sini ya. Mau ganti game.